Time is running out, and there are only a few hours left until the premiere of Disney's controversial remake of Snow White. The film, scheduled for release on March 21st of this year, has already sparked a storm of emotions, debates, and even open protests. As this long-awaited moment draws closer, the changes and metamorphoses are becoming increasingly evident, not only in the film itself, but also in the marketing strategy of the legendary House of Mouse. It is worth recalling that the entire scandal began back when the company decided to fundamentally change the traditional approach to the classic fairy tale. The decision to cast Latina actress Rachel Zegler in the leading role, along with abandoning the conventional use of live actors to portray the dwarves and other characters, immediately served as a starting point for a sharp public backlash, sparking a wave of boycott and harsh criticism toward the remake. Just a year and a half ago, when the first footage from the new film's production leaked, many fans of the classic began to feel that traditional values were being subjected to dubious modernization. It then became clear that Disney had once again taken a risk, which many later considered to be a fatal mistake. In the meantime, not only have new materials emerged, but a wealth of analytical reviews, detailed interviews with those involved in the filming process, and resonant statements from Rachel Zegler herself have been released. The actress did not shy away from criticizing the original 1937 animated film, calling it outdated, unprogressive, and even dangerous from the standpoint of modern moral standards. In her interviews, she repeatedly pointed out that the prince in the classic version appears as an aggressive and unscrupulous character, and that a kiss given without the heroine's consent is tantamount to sexual harassment. Such statements, supported by the producer's stance, only deepened the distrust toward the upcoming project and became the reason for the outburst of anger among both the fans of the original and industry critics. Under the pressure of public opinion, Disney was forced to reconsider its marketing steps. Thus, a month before the premiere, the company's management actively changed its advertising strategy, trying in every way to mitigate the negativity and regain the audience's trust. In one of the recent teasers, which has already gone viral on social media, it is stated that the remake reproduces the original animated film almost word for word. However, such a claim is perceived as a desperate attempt to evoke nostalgia, thereby compensating for the shortcomings of the innovative decisions. Hence, the main paradox of the situation emerges. On one hand, there is the desire to restore the magic of the classic, and on the other, the wish to modernize it in accordance with contemporary trends. A conflict that pits traditionalists against proponents of innovation. The choice of the leading lady, namely Rachel Zegler, has particularly ignited intense debates, and since the announcement of her participation in the project, she has been the target of the harshest critical assessments. In addition to her controversial statements in interviews, many point out that her appearance and character do not match the classic image of Snow White, which, according to the critics, could shatter the connection with an audience that grew up with the original fairy tale. It is not surprising, then, that on social networks, the ratio of likes to dislikes on the promotional trailers sharply tilts toward negative reviews, and user comments are filled with biting remarks and sarcasm. One fan even compared the experience to undergoing a painful procedure, stating that watching the new film would be more unpleasant than any discomfort, while another suggested that the original version should be released in parallel with the remake so that the audience could objectively compare them. Moreover, other curious aspects of the film's preparation are coming to light. An analysis of the promotional material shows that in the trailers, the screen time allotted to Rachel Zegler has been significantly reduced. For example, in the trailer from December 3rd, her screen time accounted for almost half of the total duration, whereas in the video from February 14th, it constituted only 28% of the overall time. Such a dramatic reduction in the actress's presence in the advertising materials is seen by many as a sign that the studio is attempting to distance itself from her controversial image following the negative responses. Experts suggest that this trend may continue in the final version of the film, which would be interpreted as an acknowledgement of the mistake in choosing the leading actress. In addition to the changes in screen time, there have been reports that Disney is even adjusting the visual perception of Rachel Zegler in its promotional materials. Several English-language publications have already reported that on the international poster for Snow White, the actress's skin appears noticeably lighter than in the original footage. According to these sources, lighting effects have been applied to the poster to bleach her natural skin tone, giving her an appearance more in line with the classic image of a fairy tale princess. This decision has sparked widespread resonance. Many viewers and experts have interpreted it as a covert acknowledgement of a casting error, as well as an attempt by Disney to restore the lost connection with an audience enamored with the classic interpretation of the fairy tale. It is not surprising that such changes only intensify the overall skepticism toward the remake. Under the pressure of public opinion and numerous critical reviews, Disney's management is forced to balance traditional values with the desire to keep pace with the times. At the same time, the company must make a difficult choice, whether to continue adhering to innovative decisions or to attempt to reclaim some of the lost charm of the original. Some analysts even suggest that the current situation may become a turning point in Disney's strategy, and that in the future the studio may reconsider its approach to creating remakes of classic films. It is possible that after the premiere of Snow White, we may witness more radical reforms in the methods of casting, directing, and marketing aimed at avoiding similar failures in the future. In recent weeks, in addition to the main changes, a whole picture of new details around the project has begun to emerge from various sources. For instance, some insiders claim that behind the scenes, active negotiations are underway regarding the adjustment of the script, which could lead to significant revisions of both individual scenes and the overall narrative. In certain interviews, representatives of the studio hint that the final version of the film may take into account the feedback from focus groups, as well as additional test screenings to gauge the audience's reaction. These measures, according to experts, are an attempt to salvage a project that seems to have already lost part of its initial shine. It is also worth noting that in the conditions of fierce competition in the film industry, even the largest and most experienced studios are forced to heed the opinions of critics and viewers. Modern technologies allow companies to quickly track the public's reaction to every new teaser, compelling them to promptly make adjustments to their marketing campaigns. Disney, with its vast resources and experience, now finds itself in a difficult situation. On one hand, there is a desire to maintain an innovative image, and on the other, a need to meet the expectations of fans of the classic, who grew up with the original fairy tale. This contradiction gives rise to a conflict of interests, which has become the main source of tension surrounding the remake. There is also a certain degree of irony in the way the studio is attempting to downplay the negativity emanating from the public. For example, a new short teaser released before the premiere contains references to beloved scenes from the original animated film, as if trying to transport viewers back to the atmosphere of their childhood. However, such attempts are perceived as desperate and unconvincing. Modern viewers, familiar with the company's history and its previous mistakes, see in these moves only an effort to hide real problems and prevent the complete failure of the project. Discussions on social media revolve not only around questions of visual fidelity to the classic, but also around the strategic decisions made by the production team. Many users even expressed the opinion that if the original animated film were released in parallel with the remake, the results would be obvious. The public would clearly prefer the time-tested version of the fairy tale. Equally intriguing are the numerous comments from experts who are already predicting the fate of the new film. Some are convinced that if the trend of reducing Rachel Zegler's screen time continues, the final version of the remake will serve as a clear demonstration that even industry giants are not immune to mistakes in creative decisions. Others point out that the company might use this experience to develop a new strategy that will allow for a clearer demarcation between innovation and the preservation of classic heritage in the future. These discussions only emphasize how topical and multifaceted the subject of the Snow White remake has become. It should not be forgotten that such changes in the approach to creating and promoting films reflect global trends in the entertainment world. On one hand, audiences are becoming increasingly demanding. On the other hand, the expectations of viewers who grew up with classic stories are difficult to satisfy with modern technological innovations and experimental approaches. Disney, like any other studio, is forced to find a compromise between preserving cultural heritage and striving for innovation. In the end, every new decision, whether it is a script revision, an adjustment to visual images, or a reconsideration of the marketing strategy, becomes a test of resilience for the House of Mouse, which year after year faces ever harsher criticism and rising demands from the public. In conclusion, it should be noted that the situation surrounding the Snow White remake is not only a reflection of the internal processes at Disney, but also an example of how modern technologies and social networks can influence the decisions of even the largest film studios. Every new detail, every teaser, and every online post is analyzed to the smallest detail, and ultimately the audience's reaction becomes the main measure of a project's success. Perhaps this experience will serve as a starting point for future reforms in working with classics, as well as for finding new formats for interacting with an audience. Thus, it can be concluded that Disney finds itself in a difficult situation, caught between the desire for innovation and the need to meet the nostalgic expectations of the public. The modern changes in marketing policy, the adjustment of the leading lady's image, and the active use of elements from the original animated film all testify to the studio's readiness to take drastic steps to save the project, even if it means admitting its own mistakes. Against the backdrop of all the discussions and conflicting opinions, the question remains open. Will it be possible to restore the magic of the classic in this new interpretation? Or will the remake forever be remembered as a striking example of failure in adapting the legendary fairy tale to the realities of the modern world? Subscribe to our channel, stay updated, and share your opinions in the comments. After all, every voice matters in this heated discussion. And for those who want to stay abreast of the latest news and see exclusive materials, we recommend checking out our Telegram channel, the link to which is provided under the video. The future of the Snow White remake remains uncertain, and only time will tell whether Disney can overcome all the challenges and regain the trust of its audience. Analytical supplement. According to the latest information from various sources, experts note that if the current trend in altering the marketing strategy continues, the studio will be forced not only to adjust the final edit of the film, but also to conduct additional test screenings to gauge audience reaction. These measures may represent the first step toward broader reforms in the approach to creating remakes, where the balance between innovation and classic heritage will become the key factor for success. In today's competitive film market, even giants like Disney are compelled to consider the opinions of critics and viewers in order to maintain a connection with the audience and preserve their reputation as creators of truly magical stories. Thus, the split between traditional and modern approaches, the protest of the fans, and the decisive measures taken by the company's management create a complex and multifaceted kaleidoscope of events that will not only influence the fate of the Snow White remake, but also shape Disney's future strategy in adapting classic works. And although it may prove extremely difficult to rectify the situation, it is possible that it is precisely through these hardships that the studio will find new paths for creative experimentation and establish a closer bond with an audience capable of appreciating both innovation and the enduring magic of classic fairy tales.